Welcome to the SJ Child Show. This episode is sponsored by Water and Body Basics. Visit 3440 South, 5600 West, West Valley City, Utah. Mention SJ Childs today.
Hi, and welcome to the SJ Child Show. I'm your host, SJ Childs, and today I have a special friend, guest, fellow podcaster, fellow author. We just have too many things in common. And today we are going to talk about something I'm not a veteran. However, I am a military daughter. And so I do have a lot of experience with the military and growing up. And so I'm so excited to have you here today, Wendy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Talk about your journey in the service and, celebrating veterans. And we're going to try to do this around Veterans Day. So it probably won't make sense that I'm in this summer dress because it's actually 100 degrees now, and it will probably be, 20.
Beautiful. I love the butterflies.
Thank you.
I just got like a plain t-shirt on. I don't know.
Butterflies, everyone. Yeah, right? Thank you so much. It's a lot of fun. And it's been so much fun to dress up and to have fun. And it's almost been like my adult play dates on Zoom every day.
Yeah, life is too short not to, right?
Yeah. I read something yesterday. It's so funny you said that. I think it was even like a TikTok video. And the girl was saying, if you want to wear your ball gown to the grocery store, do it. Why not? This is your life. You're in charge. Right. You're the boss. Like, do whatever you want.
Something different.
Wear a costume somewhere if you want to. Wear whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can do those things. And people don't do that. They don't consider those things. They don't think, oh, I have this pretty dress that I'm only going to wear one time somewhere. Wear it a couple other places. Go to 7-Eleven. Who cares, right? Like,
get the
off.
shoes. Get the shoes. Get the fancy underwear. Get a nice haircut. Get a good massage. Buy that expensive bottle of wine every once in a while. Come on,
Definitely.
You need to do that.
Definitely have to take our self-care into consideration for sure. And I think especially, for me over the last 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, just so much inside all the time, seeing the same faces. Obviously, I love them with all my heart. But you also start to take it for granted a little maybe, or just not really see it, for what it is. So it's exciting to meet up with people, hear their perspectives, and really be able to say, oh my gosh, yes, this is, I agree with your lifestyles. And things.
Podcasting is so much fun.
I love it.
So much fun. I love it. I'm so glad I started it. I met you through podcasting. That's just incredible. Just that. But
yeah, right?
Yeah, you meet the most amazing people. You hear the most amazing stories. It's very fun. And I think a good, transparent story can get you far, especially during these times where, what's going on again with, I don't even want to even say it. Like,
I know. Right? News is not even,
oh my gosh,
worth watching.
Yeah. I turned on the news. I'm like, oh no. Oh my gosh. I thought we were kind of past it, but
exactly. Things just don't seem to be settling down. They seem to be upheavaling. So it is kind of crazy. So this is a nice medium where we can meet and just have aligned visions and aligned
cohesive conversation. Can't talk.
Conversation. That one. You're so cute. Very cohesive. Exactly. When we can get the words out. Yeah, that's okay. And authors, you have to hold us accountable for our words, which is really tricky because we're also humans that make a lot of mistakes.
I know. I'm always checking myself on Facebook. Did I spell that right? Did I say that right? I have to double check because I will get a message.
Yeah, right.
You're a writer. How did you get that wrong? I'm like, well, I'm not a robot sometimes.
Exactly. Yep, I'm not spell check. I'm actually a human. That's for sure. Oh my gosh.
Go figure.
And I have my husband doing our TikTok for us, and he's like, and it's funny because people people don't know. They're on there. They're sending me messages. My husband's learning how to respond as a woman. He's catfishing like the best of them. And just like say thanks for supporting us, things like that. You know, he's not actually catfishing people. Come on. No, right? No listeners, he's not a catfish. But it's great and it's hilarious. And I love the support, but I also think it's just so cute to see that that happening, right? That's a funny thing.
Well, it's so easy to disguise yourself. You know, it's so
isn't that the
easy
truth?
to disguise the truth. It's very hard. A lot of smoke and mirrors out there.
Lots of them. And, you know, being here today, both of us in person, nothing to hide, right? Nothing. And we're here just with our authentic selves to talk about things and talk about some exciting topics. Today, we're going to talk about Wendy's experience as a veteran. So let's just get on in and get started.
We'll dive on into it.
Let's do it. When did this, was it in high school? Did you do like ROTC, things like that? Tell us where this all began, your fervor of wanting to serve our country.
Well, the thing is when I was in high school, I had no idea I was going to join the service. So it was sort of it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I had gone to college for 1 year and, you know, I just didn't feel like 4 years of college for me at that time was for me. I mean, I later went on and got my degree and things, but it just wasn't, I wasn't, you know, after a year, I was like, okay, I need something more. I wanted to travel. I wanted to get money for college. And I kind of had a bad breakup a little bit. So with all the three things intertwined, you know, I went to the recruiter and my intention was I wanted to join the Air Force. So I went in there and, you know, he asked me a bunch of questions and things. And it came down to, well, you have to commit for 4 years. And I was like, oh, I do not want to commit for 4 years. That's too long. I was thinking more like in the lines of 2. So I just kind of walked on over to the Army recruiter. It was and, you know, they said you would be great. You know, we were looking at all the different MOSs, which MOS is just like your job, a particular job that you might be interested in. And I didn't really, you know, I didn't want to be a cook. I didn't want to be a light wheel mechanic. I wanted to be a reporter, but there was like a big, long waiting list for that. There was so I decided that I wanted to get into, there was a thing called personnel management specialist, which was just kind of like a pencil pusher. Paperwork management. I'm like, sure, I'll do that. And this was after, you know, I was looking through it and he says, well, the commitment is 4 years. And I had been in this office for a while and I was like, so I ended up doing that. So that's how I ended up joining, you know, I was in the Army. I did the delayed entry program. So I signed my intent to commit back in, this is a long time ago. So it was like about 6 months before. And I got ready my first day of basic training. I don't know if I even want to say the year.
You don't have to.
Huh?
You don't have to.
Okay, good. Because it was so long ago. But it was during the summer and I had my basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey. I've never experienced hot weather like that out there. So I grew up in northern Wisconsin, a cool climate back then. I went there and I was like, oh my goodness, it was so hot. It was so hot. I remember just getting off the buses and, you know, it was tough. We went to our base in the middle of the night on a bus, and they do that on purpose to disorient you. They don't want you to know where you're going to be. So you get off the bus, and before I even got off the bus, I could hear all this yelling. I could hear the yelling outside, and I'm like, oh, you know, what's going on out there? You know, you see these movies where the, you know, officers and sergeants or whatever, they're yelling. That's true. They do that. Now, I don't know if it's like that anymore. I don't know if they've softened it up a little bit because I don't know. But it could be not. It could be just the same. I don't know. But anyway, so I could hear him yelling. And as soon as I got off the bus, they were yelling at us and just was like, oh my gosh, it's very intense. And, you know, you have to take a series of tests. You have to be mentally able and physically able. They kind of weed out they want to make sure that you can stand, get through basic training and get through the mental, because you're going to go through a lot of mental things, right? Because they do a lot of yelling, and they really try to instill within you confidence and things, but you don't gain that right away.
Yeah.
Because what they do is they'll find your weakness. They'll find it. And everybody has one. And sometimes they'll exploit it, sometimes not. It just depends. You really want to keep a low profile when you're in the service. You don't really want to ask a lot of questions in basic anyway. You just want to keep your eyes ahead and just do what you're supposed to do and get through it. So I had 8 weeks of basic training, and it wasn't easy. I think the hardest part for me, the two things that were hard, it was difficult for me to qualify on my weapon. I didn't qualify right away. I qualified within the 8 weeks time. You have to do that. If you don't, you become a recycle.
Oh,
And believe me, no one wants to be a recycle. That means you have to redo you have to do it again, basic training.
yeah.
And there were a handful of people that did not qualify, and they were there for like 6 months still trying to qualify. I don't know what their day-to-day thing was. I think they skipped some of the other details that they had to do, but they were still there, right? They couldn't leave on to their next assignment. They had,
Wow.
they weren't passing the stress of that. Oh my goodness. It happened to my friend of mine that I had basic with. And she had met me later at when I had advanced training at Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana. And I had seen her there, and it was like a few months later. I'm like, oh my gosh. She goes, yeah, I just passed. I'm like, oh my God. I go, how did you do it? She goes, yeah. So you had to, so qualifying on the M16 is what we had to qualify on. Excuse me. We had pop-up targets, which I don't know if they still do that now. They might. Everyone has to qualify on your weapon. You have to get so many hits in a certain amount of time. And the pop-up targets, they come up and they're up for like a second or two, and then they go back down. And there's some at 50 yards, 75 yards, 150 yards, 300 yards. You have to hit at least one in the 300 yards, and you have to do it in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And by the time you line your sights up, the thing's already gone down.
Up and down, right?
I'm like, oh my gosh. So I did qualify, and it was towards the end, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that was hard, but it was so cool afterwards, because once you qualify, you go up into this building. It's a beautiful air-conditioned building, and they kind of like walk you through, and you can watch the other recruits trying to qualify. And it's kind of like a badge of honor a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. That was one of the sticky points of getting through. And what was the other thing? You have to take apart your weapon, all like, all these little pieces laying around, and you had to put it back together. And that was sort of hard for me. I'm not really good at that sort of thing. So that took some doing, but I would stay up late at night, and I would just do it and make sure that I would have it down. So I eventually got it, but yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my goodness.
I know.
We don't think about that as civilians. Like, we don't have to go through those types of stresses or things. And this is all in order to protect our rights in our country, right? And it's like
we had a couple of drill sergeants that were we had a couple different ones. One kind of reminded me of Freddie Flintstone. I'm sorry, but he looked like it. And and we had another guy. He was quite mean. In fact, he would take us, and we're a female unit. So, and he would march us in like some jagged rocks, and then have us do push-ups. And he did that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And he wasn't very nice. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was one girl there that kind of reminded me of Goldie Hawn in Private Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was, yeah. I don't know. It was so long ago, and I'm thinking about all these things that happened. It was an interesting time, and I just remember that I wanted to, pass it. I wanted to pass it with flying colors, and I didn't want to be a recycle. And I really made a goal for myself that, if I could do that, I could do like anything, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was also selected as the guidon bearer, which a guidon is like a big, huge flag at the
Hmm.
front of our squad, right? Which was, and he did that because I'm tall, and of course they picked me. I'm like, oh gosh, why would they pick me? I'm tall, it would look good, while you're holding onto the
Yeah.
flag. And I'm like, yeah, but you really have to know the marching steps. Because the whole entire squad is following your lead, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know. So it's like, oh gosh. I thought, what did I get myself into? But it ended up being okay. Because I was the guidon bearer, I didn't have to. So I shared a room with like 10 other women, but then I got my own room with just like one other person because I was,
Hey.
yeah, the squad leaders, they did that for too. And so that was a nice plus. But
Yeah. Kind of have like reward systems, right? For what you're going through there. That was so interesting. Were you ever deployed, or did you tell us about that. Tell us
yeah.
about, I bet that was scary too and exciting and all of those things, huh? Wrapped into one.
Yeah. So I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas for about 3 years. That was my permanent duty station. That's where I did personal management training, whatever, paperwork. And our unit was called to go to Desert Storm. So we did go. Our officer kind of pushed for us to go. I think he wanted to get promoted. I know that sounds, but we really, I couldn't believe it. I thought of all the units, because there's infantry units and our unit was not infantry. There were about 6 or 8 guys in our unit that were infantry, but we were basically like a pencil pusher unit.
Yeah.
And for him to have pushed for us to go, I was like, I can't believe it. So yeah, it took a couple weeks. We, they were painting all the equipment. We had to make sure we got all our equipment, our BDUs, our chemical masks, chemical uniform. And then we had to get, they told us a little bit about Southwest Asia, Saudi Arabia, where we were stationed at for the majority of the time.
Wow.
And it was hot.
Oh my goodness. I bet hot. Well, my dad was also in Desert Storm and Iraq. He went on 4 tours, I believe. So,
Yeah.
and he was in the 152nd Airlift Unit out of Reno, Nevada. He is an F4 pilot.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, yeah. And so
amazing.
I grew up at the end of a runway watching my dad take off in an F4. And when I was little, I got to go onto the base and go into the guard and go up to the towers and have dinner with him when he was on tower duty every Tuesday night and watch everybody income.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So incredible, right? It's the most incredible. In fact, we have a big joke around the July 4th because my dad often would fly in the 4th of July ceremonies in Reno. And so now when it's 4th of July and I'm like, oh, there's no jets, and everybody's like, there's fireworks. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Fireworks,
so cool.
Fireworks.
Super smart to be a pilot.
My dad is.
That's amazing.
He's now retired Major General.
Okay. Wow.
And he was the commander of the Reno Air National Guard for a few years. So yeah, definitely an astute fellow, gentleman. Absolutely. And I'm an only child, so it's exciting. I it was hard, obviously, when I was growing up. I was still in high school.
Move around a lot. Right.
And we didn't, he did. Okay. He left a lot and I stayed. And my parents were divorced. And so I had a lot of house sitters, a lot of friends of the family who would stay, or, people that would just come and stay at the house while I would go. It was definitely a strange way to live or to think about growing up. And, back then, there weren't cell phones yet at the time. And so a lot of time, I would wait for weeks or months to get a letter from my dad to just hear that he was okay and things. And boy, that was scary times, I'll tell you.
So I do recall our first night out in the desert. I do recall that. It was crazy. So we set up tents. We had like probably about 8 tents, 3 women tents. You know, I don't know, the rest were guy tents.
Yeah.
Officers would have their tent, and it was just so bizarre. So yeah, we didn't stay in any brick and mortar type building for about 8 months. So it was just tent. Yeah. So the first night we were there, you know, it was late at night, of course, and we had been setting up all day long, and we were just tired and sweaty. And you know, we went to bed. We had these cots. There was like about 12 women in our tent, in our big tent, and we were, you know, fairly close, you know, sand bottom. And so I woke up the next morning and I look under my cot and I see this track mark under my cot in the sand. And I thought it was a snake. It looked like that, not, you know, just the tracking of it. And so this girl who is just like, she was like the comedian of the group. She would always make prank jokes and things. So of course she gets up screaming, "There's a snake! There's a snake under my duffel bag! There's a snake under my duffel bag!" Right? And we all thought she was joking. No one believed her. And I thought, you know, I see these tracks under my cot here. And I just kind of walk towards her duffel bag. She goes, "It's here, it's here." I'm like, okay, well, let's look. And there it is. There's a pit viper snake, same color as the sand, coiled up underneath her duffel bag.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate snakes. I can't stand snakes. And I hightailed it out of there. I said, "Get out of here." And anyway, make a long story short, there was a couple of the guys brought golf clubs and killed it with a golf club.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, just clubbed it.
Oh, that's crazy.
But that was the only time we saw a snake.
Wow.
The only time was the first night, or first morning, I should say.
Scary right into your, right?
We would hear stories, right? We would hear stories and you didn't know what to believe. Like, oh, the camp down the way, you know, they saw a cobra, you know, and it came up over the cot and, you know, it bit you and it bit this person when they were sleeping and they had no chance. I mean, you heard stuff like that all the time. You didn't know what to believe. And you know, the people in charge, the sergeants or whatever, were like, "There's no cobras around here. They're usually more towards the rocky part."
Yeah, mountainous.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. But we had there were scorpions. And some of the guys would have scorpion races. They would pick them up and then race them. For the most part, I don't want to say they were harmless. They're not harmless. I mean, if they bite you, they're
venomous, but
but they were in all different colors. They're like bright green and blue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you woke up, you had to do your
check
boots,
your shoes. Yeah.
out, you know, because you didn't know what might crawl in there. But yeah, and the thing is, if you had to go to the bathroom, you had to get up just like you're camping, right? And walk way out to our makeshift bathroom that we had, which was just like a big old little warehouse thing that they built, you know, and that was kind of creepy. We'd have
right,
you know, and it'd be windy, and you know, there would be a bag where you know, put toilet paper and stuff, and that bag would just be hitting the door in the wind and stuff, and it was just a very uneasy you know, feeling. They're like, "Whenever you go, make sure to count the bushes to make sure they don't move." I'm like, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was, so a lot of our days out there was spent, you know, we brought our work out there. We had a work trailer, you know, we had our computers out there, so we would do our paperwork. And I worked also with the Red Cross, and basically, if someone back home would have a loved one that was dying or, you know, fell ill or had an accident, I would have to track down what unit this person is.
Wow.
And get the info out to their family and their unit so they could possibly go back home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting too. But yeah, I mean, we filled a lot of sandbags. Yeah, it was so long ago.
Yeah. Like a lifetime, huh?
It feels like a different lifetime. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, we had one thing. So I went on a courier run with a couple of the guys from the unit. I was able to do that. So I went with them and they wanted to get some food, and they went and stopped at this like roadside kind of diner. And I stayed in the car because they didn't, females in the military.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely not, I actually had to put my sleeves down. They wanted you to roll your sleeves down anyway, so you wouldn't get sunburn from all the time that you'd be spending out there. But I did step in there. I did go in the restaurant for a little bit, and they just kind of looked at me and, and I'm like, I'm going to go back out to the car. I don't know what they ordered. I think they ordered some like pizza or whatever, and they had some like lamb and rice. That was really good. The food was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did lose a lot of weight out there, and I had no real business losing weight. But yeah, stress and everything. We had MREs, meals ready to eat, which is just little meals that are in plastic packages, and also bee rats, which really they're just bee rations of food that you just pour water in, and it just
Pops up and you eat
pops up. So I don't know. Yeah, it was so weird, but so we were out there. We left in October. I won't say the year, and then we came back in end of April, May, beginning of May of the following year. And on our last night out there, we encountered a schmal. So a schmal is a desert equivalent to a tornado.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. And our sergeants knew that it was coming because he was like, there's a storm coming. There's like a big, this wall of sand, complete wall of sand. And we could see it because, there's no trees, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
And you can see for miles. And he's like, you see it over there? He says, it's coming, hunker down, get your tent, windows and everything, get all that stuff down and just hide in your tent or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And let me tell you, it was bad. It hit us really bad. We had, so the 12 females that were in our tent, we were holding down the tent because it was just so.
Did any tents blow away?
Yeah, we had one that blew away.
Oh, heavens.
Like the tent went off. But it was so loud, it sounded like a train, and you could barely hear each other in the tent. So we got scared. We climbed on top of our cots to try to hold down the tent and hold down the ropes just to make sure it wouldn't blow away. And one of the girls took out her Bible and started reading out of the Bible because you could hear her words it was loud. It was so loud. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is real, this is what we're experiencing. And eventually it stopped. I don't know how long it lasted, probably a good 15 minutes. And everything was covered in mud and dust, everything. Everything. You had sand everywhere, like all in my hair and just everywhere. There wasn't a spot that didn't have mud and sand, and everybody looked like that. Our uniforms were completely, and we were about to leave. So everything was covered in wet mud and dirt. And we left some of that out there. They burned a lot of it because it just wasn't useful anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then, we left and we went, so we went to these makeshift sort of, I guess, hotels, you could call it, so we could acclimate a little bit and just kind of wait there until, we could get a flight back home. And we were there for about 2 weeks, I would say. Yeah, that was different too. Very interesting.
Crazy. When you got back home, how did you feel? Like, were you just kind of turned over to the world, or did they have services ready for you? What did that look like?
That was different because I was due to honorably discharge in June of that same year. So I had like maybe 4 weeks, but I had saved up my vacation time. So I was ready to go. I was like by mid-May rather, I was done. It was kind of nice because our unit that went out there, when we got back, it was just a great cohesiveness. We were, compadres, we had been through this experience together, and it was fun. There was a good week in there that we kind of went out and partied a little bit, had some fun. like, oh, we got through this experience, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I had left the service. They wanted me to reenlist. I didn't want to. I was done. I didn't want. I did 4 years. That was
Yeah.
enough for me. And yeah, so I was done. But yeah, I mean, I was just excited to start the next phase of my life. There's a lot of good things about the military. You can learn a lot of good skills, but I just, I got what I wanted out of it, and
Yeah.
I was ready to start something new.
Definitely. Oh, that's exciting. And thank you so much for doing that, for your service and everything. That's amazing.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's incredible what, like, obviously I was on the other end of it, just kind of waiting, waiting and listening and hearing and waiting. And that's
Right.
that's a hard part of it too, especially when you're a child waiting,
Right.
to hear from your parent.
Right.
But and my dad, spent 40 years. He went in when he was 17,
Word.
and he retired at 57.
It's incredible.
So he was even like an early retiree, if you will. So
Yeah.
oh yeah, good for him.
That's
And I mean,
amazing.
now
Yeah.
he just, hopefully he's, lived his best life and has, I think that for him, and that I don't know about, everybody in the military, but for him, I think that he put so much into his career
Mhm.
that definitely his relationships took to the side.
Oh yeah.
And that, happens. And so, I hope that he can still continue to, find
Yeah.
what his happiness and things out there. But as far as like deserving, like all of the fishing trips to Mexico and things like that, I'm
Yeah.
always like, he did so much and put so
Wonderful.
many hard years and hard work
Yep.
into his life. And
It's hard. It's hard work, and its military spouse is hard. It is hard because a lot of times there's a lot of travel involved, and it is hard on the family, but
Yeah.
yet, they're providing for the family, and
Definitely.
you got medical care, and your housing is taken care of. So that's, and you get a paycheck. So there's a lot of pluses to it, but
Definitely.
you can travel a lot too. And sometimes, like my husband, his family, he comes from a military family. His dad was an officer, and they had moved like every 2 or 3 years throughout his childhood. He lived in Germany, and then he lived in Nebraska, and then he lived in Georgia, and then he lived in Illinois, and then he went back to Germany. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, yeah, it was difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I never had to move out of town or anything. We did, like, as a baby, we went to like Mississippi, South Carolina, I
Yeah.
think pilot training places and things like that. But I don't remember because I was just an infant, so and no
Right,
skin
right.
off my back. But yeah, so then when we were in Reno, and he just did a lot of things for the Guard in Reno, so I was able to maintain my life there.
Right.
And then Salt Lake City, my mom moved to Salt Lake City when I was like 13. So I would just come back and forth from Salt Lake City to Reno throughout my existence until, the fateful day of 18. And then I never came back to any of them. Okay, I came back, but I ran as far away as I
wanna
could
go
from
to Salt
all
Lake
of it.
City.
I'd love to have you here.
I would love to come visit. I hear a lot of
Yeah.
great things. I would love to.
It's great. Being from originally from Nevada and having lived in, Oregon, California, and other places, I think that it's good because I have a perspective of what people are like in other places.
Yes.
But I think if you're from Utah and you've only been in Utah, you only understand that people judge you up and down for every single thing all day long in every way.
Oh, it's like that.
It's hard. I think it's probably like
hard.
that everywhere. You just have to find your tribe that don't do that, right?
It's hard because I do feel, I think it really is good to experience living in different places.
Yeah.
And give you different perspectives, right? It just kind of broadens your horizons a little bit, and like, oh, okay, it's not like this here. It's a little bit different. Oh, okay. I gotta pivot myself and,
Exactly.
adapt to your surroundings. And I think that's one of the takeaways that I got from the military is my ability to adapt to certain situations, to all situations, really. It's very good that way.
Definitely, huh? It forces you to. So then you have the empowerment inside of you to know that you can do it.
Right.
And that's just life changing. I agree. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation today and to do this recording. And like I said, we'll just be putting this out around Veterans Day so that we can celebrate your time serving our country and all of our veterans, and just so thankful and grateful to them. And I have done a couple other interviews, so if there are resources, you can reach out to there are often veteran chamber of commerce's or Wounded Warrior. There's so many different
Wounded Warriors is such a good
organizations.
project. Yes.
Yes.
It's really well needed. There is a lot of veterans and soldiers out there that really need the help, right? So that is such a
Absolutely.
good organization.
Yeah. I recently you probably saw the one with April Imani Smith, where she has a company called She Is Creations, and she helps women coming out of the military to help reestablish their life as a civilian.
That's so fabulous.
Yes,
that is so wonderful that she's doing that, because that is a little tricky.
Yeah.
Trying to find yourself in the civilian world after you've been in the military world, it is a little bit different. Yeah.
A lot
give
different
and
take. Yeah, right. And so it's interesting. And I even see my life and how, I obviously wasn't in the military, yet my household, better believe, was run extremely strictly and clean and strict and on time and with respect. And I think that a lot of times he probably didn't mean to make me kind of be, his person in charge of others or whatever, but Sarah, clean up this for this person. Sarah, do this. And it was it was a lot of
good habits.
That's true.
It's in the military. I never used to like to run. I hated it. In fact, I would run and throw up. And the military actually got me into running, and I run to this day.
Exactly.
Now I can't do it every day. My knees are getting, but I do enjoy it, but I surely didn't.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely. One thing I wished I loved running a little bit more. Same thing. It wasn't ever my
there's
forte.
A couple things to that. I can't do it every day.
Yeah.
If I do, I can barely, like, after I get done running, I sit down on the couch, I get up, I'm like Frankenstein. I can barely walk. So I still have that. I'm loading up on glucosamine every day, and I
right?
I can't do it every day. I do enjoy running on trails out in the woods.
Yeah.
I don't, I prefer that to the just, running
around the blocks.
Yeah.
Oh, I would too. Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. Well, I'm so happy to have met with you today and spend time with you. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
And of course, we'll be in contact because we're stuck with each other now.
We are. It's been a pleasure, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have seen our previous episode, please check out Wendy's book that she has, A Gray Resort. She is an author. Also, her podcast, the Juicy Pear podcast. I'll make sure to have all the descriptions where to find her down in the links. I'll put how about the links down in the description? Something like that. Descriptions, links, you know what I'm saying. We get it. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.